Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, students, friends, family, everyone on the internet, welcome to episode 79. I need to be careful, I don't want to get it wrong. 79 of the Teacher Emilio podcast. I'm your host, Emilio, and today I've got a really good friend of mine that we met about 3-4 weeks ago. No, wait, maybe a bit more.
Yeah, a bit more, but we haven't really interacted during that time.
And to my surprise, when I was in the study tour in Japan, I thought, it would be so cool to interview some of my friends that I made there, but I wasn't sure if they would be keen to be on the podcast. And luckily, to our surprise, ta-da, there we go. Some of them do want to be here. So let's welcome Amelie. Amelie, welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, hi. My name is Amelie Vu. I met teacher Emilio through, the Japanese study tour that we went to last month. I am currently an animation student at RMIT. And I do little animations on the side, and I also work on an online comic. And that's basically my background.
Ooh, how cool.
We'll get into that later.
Working into your comic. Yeah, let me put a note because we'll come back to the comic. And I'll jump right in and tell everyone one of the main reasons why I thought it would be cool to bring you in. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with a few things that happened in the study tour. Yeah. So going into story time, basically, I still remember that one time we were having a chat and I told you, because you're half Vietnamese. And then you went up to me and what did you say?
I'm not half. I'm very much full. Both my parents are.
And then a part of me went, wait, what do you mean? So I was having this shock for like a split second because, we use that phrase a lot in Japan, being half.
Yes, that's very true.
Can you tell our audience what does that mean, like being half? Because maybe it's not that common here in Australia to have that term.
Well, I wouldn't know how to explain it personally because I am not half. But in the context of Japan, it's a very homogenous country. I guess a massive majority of their population is just full Japanese. So, half Japanese people are very rare to come by, but they have been increasing lately as we get more globalized and stuff. I don't know where else to explain there.
I'll jump in, and from my understanding, it's basically if one of your parents is Japanese and one of your parents is not Japanese.
The definition.
And when you said that, when you said like someone,
I thought it was a given.
There we go. And when you told me like I'm full Vietnamese for a second, I think what went through my mind is like, okay, yeah, you're like Vietnamese, Aussie, so it's like you're 50% Vietnamese and 50% Aussie. That's as in, I think that's what I meant. And also, being in Japan, you hear the word half so much. So I was like, you must be half as well. But then I thought, whoopsie, look, my bad, my apologies. It's like,
all good.
That's not, I didn't mean anything, know.
Yeah, I did, I would say most people wouldn't assume Vietnamese as immediately upon meeting me as my ethnicity. Sorry,
right.
A little bit of slip up. I assume it's because, in Australia, you don't really assume ethnicity when it comes to people. Because everyone comes from different places and it's so mixed here. So honestly, anyone could be anything.
And that's so cool because actually this is a good lead up to my next story, which is my presentation in the study tour in Japan. Basically, I was buying something. No, come on. You want to make me blush. You want to make me blush in video. So basically, I was in Uniqlo and then, it was a self-serve. The shop was about to close. And I remember that I was, going to start putting all the things. And as I was going to press like the button that says next or checkout, one of the workers just came in and he basically pressed English. And, it was a very, very short interaction. But a part of me was like, oh, thank you. But on the flip side, I was like, mate, I can read that thing. After so many years studying Japanese, I can read it.
All your hard work.
Yeah, it's like, I know. But at the same time, I didn't speak to him. We didn't speak at all. It was a very, very... He just said to us, like, we are closing. So from the very beginning, he probably assumed that I spoke English, which, to be honest, is a very good guess. And... a part of me is like, yeah, but I can speak Japanese. Why? But obviously, I didn't, get angry or anything.
Yeah.
But I thought it's so interesting because he assumed that I wouldn't speak Japanese based on how I look.
Yep.
And you just touch up on that, like people in Australia wouldn't necessarily, let's say, assume that you do speak or you don't speak. And as an Australian, since you grew up here, can you tell us a bit about that in terms of you having those experiences? Have you ever been in a situation where people don't think, or maybe they assumed that
they don't think I'm from Australia? Honestly, not really, because I grew up around a very diverse community in the east side of Melbourne. So everyone is from an immigrant family, at least majority. And I think no one would make the assumption that you're there's no like external, like soto and uchi in Japanese, if that makes sense. There's no like outsider, like a phrase for that in Australia, because everyone looks so different and everyone comes from different backgrounds and so accepting. I never really had the experience of being treated like a foreigner here, because everyone looks like a foreigner here as well. But when I came to Japan, looking like an Asian, and with a style that I guess is more Japanese leaning, because I tend to like Japanese fashion as well. I was immediately, strangely enough, like speaking the language, speaking Japanese, they immediately accepted me as a Japanese person there. And I did not expect that at all, because, this year was my first trip going to Japan by myself, and also the first time that I was able to speak Japanese, because before then, I couldn't speak a single word when I traveled with my family when I was really young. So I've seen a lot of videos on like TikTok and YouTube about like foreigners coming to Japan, and you know what, having the gaijin experience, I guess, which is very notorious because Japanese people have the tendency to treat foreigners a little differently, because they're not used to it, they're not accustomed to it, since they're so homogenous. So I was completely expecting that, like being treated as a foreigner, and I'll be completely fine with that. But the moment I spoke in Japanese at the airport when I first arrived, they just started talking really quickly. I was like, they think I'm them. And I was able to understand it, so I just went along the conversation. And ever since then, the entire trip, people would never assume that I was a foreigner unless I was like do a little slip up. Like a little social custom slip up by accident.
Yeah, it's like what happened to her. I mean, maybe for them it's like, this is so strange because we don't do that thing that maybe you did.
Yes.
And it's not in a bad way, but it's just maybe that bit of a shock. It's funny you mentioned that, because I don't know if I've told you, so I'll just tell you right now here on the episode and to everyone else. When I entered Japan this time, it was so funny because, again, with, let's say, this look, they wouldn't assume that I speak Japanese, but obviously, I mean, which I thought was, pretty logical. He said to me in Japanese, like after I passed the customs officer, he was so happy. He looked at my passport like, oh, Venezuela. And I don't know, he smiled. So I thought, that's good. And I told him the name of a famous baseball player from Venezuela that lives in Japan. Random fact, he's the only non-Japanese person in the Hall of Fame of baseball in Japan. Oh, I hope I got that right. Yeah. His name is Ramirez. Well, his last name is Ramirez. Oh. And he's called Rami-chan.
Oh, that's so cute.
I know.
That's an adorable.
So I basically used that, and I just said, oh, yeah, do you know Rami-chan? And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, oh, he's from Venezuela. Blah, blah, blah. Then I go by, right? I passed. And then this other officer basically asked me in Japanese, like, he asked me, do you speak Japanese? And I replied, yes, I do. And I think he had a bit of a split second, like, what the hell? Maybe he wasn't expecting it. And as soon as I said, yes, I do, like you said, he talked in a really fast Japanese. I couldn't catch everything, but the essence was, we want to do a quick check on your luggage. Can we check your bags and everything? And my reply was like, whoa, that was very... As in, I thought, ooh, that's interesting. Like, first time that I'm asked this. And I thought, oh, you're asking the Latino for their bag. I know what you're doing. But putting that on the side, I just said to him, would you like me to can I put my bag on top? Because I'm like, this is an airport, I gotta be polite. So I said, oh, can I put my bag on top? Can I open my bag? Or do you want to open my bag? And this guy, he freaked out. Well, like,
he freaked out. That's crazy.
Split second, he was like, what the hell? And then he just kept going. So I thought, that's interesting because he didn't see that coming, and then he just asked me questions, and yeah, it was very normal. So I thought interesting
Yeah.
because we are like the two opposites.
Yeah,
People
definitely.
assume, which is again fair enough. People assume I don't speak Japanese, and for you it's like people assume you do.
Yes.
So it's an interesting experience when we are there.
It comes with pros and cons, I would say.
True.
Because like the big pro, I guess, is that you don't get treated like an outsider if you look like them. And people kind of not undermine, but like Japanese people really aren't used to like foreign presence, at least outside of the main cities like Tokyo, Kyoto, and so forth. So being immediately accepted is a bit jarring because I guess I heard so many stories about like foreigners or our friends exploring further out in Japan and being constantly like stared at and glanced at and like having being treated very weirdly or like because Japanese people just don't know how to interact with.
But they're not used to it.
They're just completely not used to it. It's not out of malice. So the big con though about looking like them is they expect perfect Japanese.
True.
They expect me to act like them. They expect me to know all the customs. Like, because in Japanese society, there's so many subtle rules or subtle ways to act that's embedded in their society. So if you do something wrong, I get looked at like you're being rude right now, or like you're not supposed to do that. So rather than having the gaijin card, the foreigner card, in Japan, I don't have that. So if I do something that steps outside of what is expected, they look at me like I'm the weird one or that I'm being rude or in the wrong in that moment. So it's a bit scary. I feel like I have to like become them, if that makes sense. I adapt my manners to
a bit of extra pressure.
Yes, I adapt. Like I suddenly act more Japanese because I'm worried that I'll get glanced at in a certain way. One specific thing that happened to me was so Japanese yen, the coins, they look the same.
Oh,
they all look the same. And every time I have to pay for something in the counter, I can't count them. I don't know which one's which, and it's a big struggle. And then I always put in the wrong change, like either too much or too little, and they always look at me like, "Ma'am, what are you doing right now?" Or like, "Ma'am, that's not." Yeah. I think they just assume that I can't count or that I'm mathematically inept, and it's so embarrassing. It really is. And like if I say something like, in like Japanese, like for example, like stories and stuff, there's always a script with every single situation. A set script of what you have to say at a konbini or at a shop when you're buying clothes or like when you're lining up for like the train or something. And if I say something slightly like different, like the phrase is slightly
or maybe
wrong,
that is not in that situation.
Yeah. And if I ask for something that's like not usually asked for, they look at me like, what
why are you
doing?
Asking
yeah,
for
why
that?
are you doing that? So it was a big learning experience, I guess. I think I had a perspective on what it really was like to live in Japan, like all the pressure in society and stuff as well. Because it was like, I think at that moment I realized how the opposite of individualistic, how collectivist Japanese society is. Like I really felt that pressure, and it made me realize like some people, Japanese people who live there really don't have much of a choice but to adapt and conform to their peers, because there's so much you immediately get looked down upon when you do something a little strange, like even if it's like super subtle.
Yeah, so fitting in is quite a thing.
Yeah, it's like it's everything.
And in Australia, I mean, when we we've got, when you think about Australia, I think that an interesting flip side, and I remember telling this to the students that were in Japan, it's like in Japan, this was my story. In Japan, everyone thinks I don't speak Japanese. But if you or anyone goes to Australia, people don't assume. People just talk to you in English. It's like, mate, you're in Australia, you gotta learn English. I mean, no one says that.
That's
No one. I mean, I haven't had those experiences, but you do get that a lot.
Yes,
right.
definitely.
And it's like in Australia, people don't even. Well, I mean, probably they would, or like some people maybe, you know, as in if you have the typical, let's say, white person, you would assume they're from here. Maybe they speak perfect English, but all in all, people would just talk to you. Yeah, mate, good day, mate. How you going? Blah, 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 blah. What would you like? Type of thing. And they wouldn't hesitate or think like, oh, is this person from here? Let me change. Maybe some people may change how they speak, but wouldn't. What do you think about that analogy?
Well, definitely. Like, a lot of my family from Vietnam, when they come here to study, I guess they find it jarring how quickly people speak English, and how, like, if they don't understand something, a lot of people don't try to adapt to that fact. Like, even though English isn't their first language and that they're learning it at the moment, a lot of people here, since English is a global language, like, people would not be so kind to I guess try and accommodate to that. So if they don't understand something initially, a lot of people would just slow down their words or speak even louder, which doesn't really help at all.
Sometimes it doesn't.
It doesn't help. It's kind of belittling, I would say, the meaning to, like, so you can't understand what I'm saying right now.
Oh, let me cut you off. That happens to me. Well, I mean, it didn't happen this time. It happens all the time. Well, not all the time, but many, many times when I enter Australia at the airport, it happens because welcome to the developing world. My passport doesn't read on the passport reader. So I always get someone like, sir, you need to put it this way. And then I politely reply, that's what I'm doing, but it doesn't work. And then I noticed that this lady, she would slow down and be like, you need to open the passport page. Please put it. And I'm like, I know. It doesn't work. And then it's like, could you please go to the back and we're going to, check it with the stamp and all that. So I feel you, because it's true. It is a thing.
It is a thing. It's unfortunate, though. I think it's because English is the dominant language. So people expect that you speak it when you come to Australia.
And thinking about, let's say, pressure with society. Since you went to Japan, or like from this trip, you noticed that you can blend in. And here, not technically, here you blend in too, right? Because you are Aussie. So how are the social dynamics? Is it much different to Japan? I mean, I guess the answer is yes, it is. But could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So in Australia, I think when I came back here, it reminded me how freely you can live in Australia. Like, there is no one judging, there is no one looking. You can just do whatever you want here. I felt that when, especially like the trains, like here, like no one cares if you're like talking loudly, eating food, doing whatever, like speaking loud to your friends and stuff. Like, people get annoyed, but people don't care if you get annoyed on trains. It's just kind of annoying, but like, you're still able to freely do whatever you want.
Thank you, Australia.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, to some degree, it gets annoying sometimes, but in Japan, it's super, what can I say? Everything is so orderly, everything's so refined, but there are rules that you have to follow in trains, especially. No one talks on trains. And if they do, it's very, not slow, very, like, quiet chatter at most.
Yeah, with a soft voice.
Yeah, even if it's like in central Tokyo, like the big capital, no one really talks in trains because it's kind of looked down upon. If you even if you like answer your phone, you can't do that. You cannot call on phones. No, you cannot do phone calls on trains because people will look at you. People will look at you, and if you do have to take a phone call, apparently, I haven't seen it in person yet, but when you have to say, excuse me, I'm on the train right now, I cannot take this call, and then you have to like bow as an apology to the people around you in the train.
You know, it's funny you mentioned this because, again, another funny story live. That happened to me once. And on my first time to Japan, this friend of mine gave me, I mean, the smartphones were not such a thing. And I think I did had a smartphone, but I didn't have a SIM card. I don't really remember, but I think maybe it's because I was on a very, very tight budget. I had these flip phones, you know, like the, I don't know, like 2000-ish type of phones. And I couldn't read anything because everything was in Japanese with kanji, and I couldn't use the phone. So all of a sudden, I'm in central Tokyo, and I noticed that there is one of these ringtones from a phone, and I noticed like, whoa, and I knew that. So part of me is like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm on a Tokyo train, and then someone's getting a phone call. This is crazy. This is not supposed to happen. And then I noticed, I mean, I knew people would look at me because, I stand out a bit. And then it's like, wait, hold on a second. Everyone is looking at me. And then I just look down. It's me. I had the phone. So I had to do that. I mean, with not even broken Japanese, I just told my friend, sorry, I'm on the train. And then he's like, are you on the train? Yes. Okay, bye. And then I bowed, like you said, and everyone looked at me like, as if I had a bomb. Well, not that much. Sorry, I'm exaggerating. But it was a stare that you can really tell.
It's a piercing stare.
Yeah, it's like,
if you do something wrong there.
And then I thought, okay. Then as soon as I put my phone back, it's like, okay, all good.
Yeah.
But talking about rules, that's also something. So we said that Australia doesn't have many rules.
Yes.
And you mentioned an interesting point, which is that you grew up in a mixed community.
Yes,
so a part of me was
right.
thinking, do you think your experience would be different if your upbringing wasn't in a mixed community? Or would you think it would be a bit different if your community wasn't as mixed as it was?
I would say that, I mean, growing up in a mixed community actually really helped with how I viewed my own culture, because everyone is, since everyone's from immigrant families, and I grew up in an especially big Vietnamese community. So in Clayton South, Springville has a lot of Vietnamese people, and my mom happens to work there. She owns a shop, and it was the norm to look different. It was a norm to be like an Australian Asian. So I never viewed myself, like, I never had anything against my own race, because I heard that from stories of people growing up in like a more white community, or majority race community, and they happen to look different. Like, they grow up having a kind of a negative outlook, I guess, on their own sense of identity, being the other person, being someone who isn't from here. And that tends to lead to a lot of complications growing up, and, a lot of complications in accepting yourself, I would say. And I never really had that, because everyone was the same as me. Like, being Australian and Asian, you can speak 2 languages. Well, that's normal, Like, speaking 2 languages, that's the norm. Having that, that family background culture mixed with, like, the culture outside, like, as Australia. Like, going into the community when it's, like, different cultures and mixed races, like, just having that exposure to that, like, makes me feel like that made me more accepting to, like, seeing other cultures and accepting, like, the way things are in different places.
And a part of me now is wondering, since you basically had that mix, right? And you basically met people from different backgrounds, and it was normal speaking 2 languages, but you're in Australia, but you also are, let's say, clearly connected to the Vietnamese community.
Yes.
So maybe that's not a bit of a shock. When it comes to, I don't know, this is not midlife crisis, but when it comes to, like, identity crisis, because I guess that's a thing that could happen to some people. And you touched on a good point, which is that sometimes people are in a community, and then it's like, because they look different. I remember, I'll give you an example, and I think this will sum up what I'm trying to say. When I used to work in a convenience store, I would ask people, where are you from? But this is not, again, look, this is just me trying to be nice and just asking people where they are from so that I can say something in whatever language they speak. Yeah? And I had many times, where are you from? I'm from Sydney, mate. And I would be like, look, okay, bro, relax. That's cool. And then it's like, I'm just asking because you never know. I'm from Australia. Okay, cool. I know you're from Australia. But it makes sense because maybe, I suppose, not only from their experiences, but maybe that could be something that happens to some people growing up in different communities.
Yeah, and those people that say that I'm from Australia are like ethnically Asian. Is that?
Yeah. Could be. I mean, could be Asian or anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I guess I mean with that struggle with accepting your own national and ethnic identity that comes with growing up in like a majority.
And putting you on the spot here with everybody, have you ever been asked where are you from, and how did you take it?
Yes, but it's a completely different context.
Oh, okay.
Completely different. So I don't know if it is heard well through this podcast, but I slip into an American accent sometimes. And
oh, okay, it's cool you mentioned it. Okay,
yes. So it's not intentional. I just speak, and my words come out in a jumble. It can be Australian, it could be American. It depends on how I feel, I guess. So many times, I guess, or like literally 90% of my interactions at uni here is like, oh, where are you from? Or like, oh, I guess you've been to America at some point. So yeah, people think I'm American. And I am not. I was born and raised here, never flew to America, and I don't think I will soon. It's far.
But it's really cool. You should check it out.
Yeah. So I would like to one day. But money. So yeah, I get assumed as a US citizen because of my accent, and the reason why for this weird mix combination accent.
That was my follow-up question.
Yes.
Tell us.
So I actually grew up only knowing Vietnamese, like in my first 5 years of my life, because my parents would speak to me in Vietnamese, and that's
well
my
done,
main
parents.
exposure. Yeah,
well done, parents. I like that. I like this story.
So in kindergarten and then in prep, I could not speak a word of English, and I struggled a lot because of that, because I had to go to ESL classes, and I guess as a way to expose myself to more English, my parents would put on the TV, and what was on TV most of the time was Disney Channel or Nickelodeon. And yeah, those are American shows. So my main, I guess the first way, I would say, the method I learned English as a child was through these American shows. So it gave me an American accent that I'm stuck with. And
and who knows, maybe more. And I have this theory. Let me stop you there.
Yes.
Maybe other people in your community have a similar experience. Maybe, and then
they would assume I'm Filipino as well, because Filipinos tend to have an American accent. Yeah. But yeah, it's just no, I'm just a Disney Channel fan. Disney Channel fan, and it became like this, which honestly I came to like, as much as my family loves to make fun of my American accent because it's entertaining to them, but it gives me like a unique quality, I guess, a unique twang to my personality.
That's awesome. I like how you are grabbing that and twisting it into something positive, because it's not. It doesn't have to be something bad.
It doesn't offend me anymore.
But maybe people. maybe someone could be like, everyone thinks I'm American, and there's nothing wrong with being American. But you're in Australia,
there's everything wrong with that.
So it's like you're in Australia. So I suppose it would be nice if people think like they wouldn't have that. Interesting.
Yeah. So in terms of like, are you from here? I don't get that in like in that kind of way, as in being treated as a foreigner here, because that doesn't usually happen. People don't really ask that. Yeah,
and I think I would also say that at least with Australians, it's like that you need to have a certain degree of closeness. Maybe it's something you wouldn't say at the very beginning. Maybe.
What do you mean by
as in maybe it wouldn't be like on the first interaction, like what I did in the convenience store. It's like, hey, how you doing? Hey, where are you from? I mean, maybe you could, but like if you're in uni, for example, and you see someone once, twice, then it's more normal to be like, hey, you've got a bit of an American. Are you from the US? And then it's more, but then it's not like a very random thing at the very beginning or like in the first interaction, but rather it's something that comes up from just interacting.
Yeah, racial background isn't something you bring up in the first interaction here, I would say. like it could turn into a sensitive conversation. I'm not sure about like everywhere else, but especially in Australia, because yeah.
Yeah, and don't assume. That's the tip. That's a big tip. Don't assume and just wait.
Yeah, never assume. Like your convenience store experience, yeah, working here. Some people can get offended.
Yeah, actually, that happened. The opposite happened to me in the US. I was a customer in a convenience store, and then this Middle East-looking person just told, and I said, "Hey, where are you from, man?" And then he's like, "Why do you want to know? Is this an interview or what?" And I was like, "Look, bro, I'm sorry, man. You know, I come from." And then I was like, "Look, I come from Australia, and I'm studying in Australia, something along those lines." And I also work in a convenience store, and I ask people just to, start a conversation. I just wanted to say something in maybe the language that you speak, if I know the phrase. And then as soon as I said that, it's like, no, sorry, man, that's not what I meant. And then it's like, don't worry, I get it. We are in America, but I didn't mean it in that way, bro. So
I think especially in America, because like there's a lot of racial tensions because of history and things that are going on right now. So yeah, it's a more sensitive conversation, I would say, in America and Australia. But like in places like Japan and stuff, it's like just conversation, like, hey, where are you from?
Or like I mean, I think the same. I think the same thing could be said of like if you go if you go somewhere like Vietnam, or if you go to, I would say anywhere in Asia, or like if you go to South America, it's so normal to be like, hey, where are you from? Oh, cool, and then you move on. and it's not with any hidden, agenda or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing that you mentioned, and I thought it would be interesting to ask, is since it's it's almost Christmas season, right? It's the beginning of December.
I'm so excited.
And okay.
Yes.
But a part of me thought, since you grew up in a Vietnamese household and probably you kept all the traditions, right? How was that experience growing up here? Because it's like, for example, you have like the Lunar New Year, and then you have Christmas. And from my understanding, maybe this is me being ignorant, but Christmas is not a big thing in Vietnam, or not as big as it is in the West.
Definitely.
So then it's like, how was that, let's say, tension growing up, or not tension? Sorry, how was that experience growing up?
Yeah. Well, a lot of my friends that like are Asian and living here, they don't celebrate Christmas at all, or they just have like a little dinner, and they don't do much outside of that. But especially, well, my mom's side is like that way as well, but my dad's side, I would say that my dad's side, where I would consider us whitewashed. So wait. Interesting.
I'll stop you there. Okay. Whitewash. What's that? Because we had a friend on the tour who said that to me, like, I'm so whitewashed. And that really got me off guard. It's like, whitewashed.
Yes.
I don't know how to take that. So I just said, look, excuse my ignorance. Can you tell me what's that?
Yeah, so whitewashed is usually like a negative term, because whitewashed means it's like mixing white as in like race and brainwashed into one. So whitewashed is when someone of an immigrant background, or mostly second generation of an immigrant family, growing up in like a country like Australia, their tendencies and like their the way they act becomes a lot more disconnected to their cultural background and more like, whatever country they're from, like Australia and America and stuff. And yeah, it's like to, I guess, emphasize like their cultural disconnect, I guess. So when I say my family is whitewashed, we celebrate Christmas.
But look, you're smiling, and that really, I wasn't sure how to take it.
I'm self-deprecating myself.
But you're right. It's like, I suppose it all depends on how you say it, right? Is that a fair guess?
Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, I would say so. So you'd only say that in banter, or like to like self-deprecate yourself.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be nice if you say, oh, such and such, this person is so whitewashed. Maybe then it wouldn't be nice. I suppose.
It's a bit of a negative nuance.
Okay.
Yeah, with my dad's side, we're whitewashed. Unfortunately, but the good thing that comes with that is that we celebrate Christmas like it's like our tradition. It's so fun. It's amazing.
Ooh, and you get Christmas presents.
Yes, we're very serious about gift giving. So everyone gets a gift from every member of the family, and our spending goes a little bit crazy because of that. And we have a shared Google Doc of what each of our Christmas lists, and we contact like each person like, hey, they should buy this for so and so. I'll get the other thing, and you can get that, and I'll get this on a surprise. And yeah, we also have jerk presents happening this year. So jerk presents is we get a random name, and we have to get a funny gift for that person, and have it as a surprise. So yeah, I got my cousin a plush from Japan, and it looks like human teeth just sewed onto it, and it looks really creepy, and I wanted to give it to him as a joke present. It would be a little creepy gift.
Please, tell him that it doesn't have any, bad meaning, or I don't know. He's gonna be like,
I'm sure he'll appreciate it regardless.
He's gonna be like, I gotta go to the dentist now.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll appreciate it regardless. And yeah, we celebrated, and we're also making our own desserts. So each of the kids in my dad's side, we bake something, and then we bring it all to share for that dinner. This year, I believe I want to make cookies or brownies. We'll see. My cousins are amazing bakers. One of them sells her baked goods on the side as well, and I'm so excited to eat their goods because I forgot what they made last year, but it was amazing. It was like I think it was like a panna cotta cake or something. It was wild. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited for this year.
Cool, and we need to leave all their details if anyone is around Springville area, so they can, get in touch. And talking about making things,
yes.
Now we need to make a turn, and we need to come back into your studies and what you're doing right now,
yes.
because you mentioned that, you are making a comic, or you're working on a comic.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
It's constantly on a hiatus because my animation studies are grueling. But yeah, I'll be returning to making my webtoon. Webtoon is a web comic, and yeah, the platform is called Webtoon, which is like the biggest webcomic platform. And yeah, on that I have a original comic called Majestical Mistake, and yeah, that's what I'm working on currently. Although it's been on hiatus for a while, so.
Well,
yeah.
but we'll leave all your social media so that people can get in touch, because you never know. When it comes to, again, animation, the first thing that comes to mind is like video, Pixar, I don't know, those big things.
Yeah.
And, well, probably you have experience in those things, but just since you're working on your comic, do you do other things? Because there may be people out there who, I don't know, may need a designer, or, again, you are the expert, so I don't know. Tell us a bit about other things that maybe you do.
Well, yeah, since I'm studying animation, I do plan to release more short animations, little clips on my Instagram. I have an artist name called Amelie, and I'll also be tabling at conventions. So,
cool.
Do you know what tabling is? So tabling is like, there's an artist alley at like every big like anime, manga, art, games convention. There's multiple that happens in Melbourne, especially.
Like PAX?
Yeah, like PAX. Yeah, like PAX.
Okay.
So there's an artist alley in every convention. And yeah, I plan to table at KaigaCon in 2nd and 3rd of March. I'll be selling my own original art goods and also fan goods as well. And yeah, me and my table partner, Messi B or Abby, we will be tabling out even more, like many more conventions to come in 2024.
Oh, that's amazing.
So you'll see me definitely at a convention this year.
So if you are in Australia, in Melbourne, and you like anime, or you want to, again, get to see some of the work in person, live, real, not on video, not on Instagram. There you go.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes. Please come and yeah, just check out my Instagram because that's when I'll update most of my stuff.
And I'll put the link in the show notes and in the video so that anyone can get in touch.
I'm a Lermite.
Look at that! Look at that! And okay, well, so we know how to get in touch, and that sounds pretty cool. Unfortunately, it's been an amazing episode. I hope that you have enjoyed it. By the way, I think I haven't said it. First interview on video. How cool! cool.
Thank you.
Also
what can I say? I'm happy
and
to be
also,
your first guest.
you know, getting close towards the end, I like to ask the guests a wrap-up message. We talked about so many different things. And as you know, as you may not know, but the audience is usually people that either want to practice, improve their English, or sometimes they just want to join me on their commute or on their walk or on the drive. And
great.
Lots of, now that the borders are open and people come to Australia, or someone maybe coming to Australia, or even if they're not, question, what would be the wrap-up final message before we finish up? What would you like
That's
to
a heavy
say
request.
So the lights are on you. Drum roll.
Oh, what can I say? Coming to Australia. Everything's expensive here, so make sure you saved up a lot before coming here.
There you go.
And yeah, I would say if you're coming here for the first time or coming back, please check out the good coffee places, because the coffee in Melbourne is amazing. It's the highlight, I would say, of the city. So yeah, please do that. And good luck on everyone's journeys, whether it's to learn English or just to come by and listen to us. So yeah.
And when it comes, last follow-up question, when it comes to English, interacting with Aussies, because, we just came from Japan.
Yes.
And, we got a lot of practice there. What could be some advice to anyone thinking of coming here, or maybe someone that's here that wants to practice and improve? As a matter of fact, random comment. One student told me yesterday, teacher, I feel my English is not improving. So imagine that if we have
that's
someone,
difficult. Yeah.
What could be some advice?
I would say, what personally helped me improve my Japanese conversation drastically is just speaking to natives, which is it's a given, obviously, but actually going out of your way to regularly practice with native speakers in English. I use HelloTalk. That app helped me a lot with my conversation. I think my Japanese conversational skills improved so much within the 1 year of me using it. So do that. Or you can join an in-person community with whatever interests you have. Let's say gaming and so forth. There's always a community for that in Melbourne. So yeah, that's what I would say.
There you go.
Interact with people.
There
Make
we
friends.
go. Exactly. Be friendly. Australians are friendly.
Yeah, have fun with learning English, I would say.
Oh, thank you.
Make it fun.
There we go. Look, what a good way to wrap up. Amelie, once again, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And like I said, if you want to get in touch, Amelie's details will be in the show notes. And maybe we'll see you in a future episode.
Yes, I would love to come back. Don't know what we'll talk about. Maybe JLPT, because that was a thing.
That would be pretty cool. JLPT is the Japanese IELTS. But more on that maybe in the future. Yes. In the meantime, all the best with your projects and also all the preparation for the convention. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And also thank you to you for joining us on your commute, on your, I don't know, maybe you were at home, going for a drive, whatever you were doing, you were part of the episode, and we were part of your day. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
this was episode 79, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yes.
Take care and bye for now.
Bye.